Still got it there.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we are live.
All right, welcome everyone to City Council Budget Workshop, or the first part of the meeting anyway will be the Budget Workshop. If we could go ahead and begin.
All righty, welcome back.
So, thank
get
you.
to say that
Good to be back.
It's good to have you back. All right, we're going to roll over our budget packet that we have. We're going to go through it a little quick because there's a couple things that I do want to spend a little bit of time on. So if I'm going too fast, let me know and we'll slow down and talk about things. But one thing you're going to notice in your budget packet is we're structuring it a little bit different for the next year. We're going to put all of our forms in here so that we can go from chart to chart to chart, and then at the end is the data. So that way we don't have to skip 30 pages to go to the next chart. So the data is going to be in the back, more like appendix. So if we need to look at that, we can. So on our first chart on page 1, we're going to go over our sales tax comparison. This would be sales tax that we received in January for the month of November of 2025. We received $292,353.80, which was an increase of $29,232.86 over 2025. So that's an 11% increase.
Which is actual month of,
It would be the actual month of November. So they would collect it in November, remit it to the state in December. And we
good
would get it in
remind
January.
everybody that that's what that is.
Yes, yeah. So that would be for November 2025. So we're starting out strong. We do have the numbers for February. February was flat with 2025. It was $1,000 difference. So we'll have that on our next budget packet, but so we're holding in there. The next page, page 2, is just the chart to show you the increase. That it was a significant increase over the previous 2 years of January's. So that's a good sign. Page 3, this is our sales tax, breaks it down a little bit more. Like I said, it was collected in November, it was remitted to the state in December, we received it in January. The city received into the general fund $216,067. City and the streets received $51,000, parks received $54,000, and $25,000 went towards our annual bond payment. So that's kind of the breakdown there. As you can see, the annuals are these beginning numbers since it's in January. Page 4 is the breakdown of the different sales tax collected to kind of show you where it came from. 83%, or let's see, I'm sorry, $2,976 was contractors, $3,000 was manufacturing, $10,400 was wholesale, $117,000 was retail, $20,000 electronic shopping and mail order, IS information services $7,353, lodging $74,765, food and beverage $71,659, and all other taxes $48,000. So for lodging, that's 20.95% of the tax collected. Food and beverage is 20.08%, with still the largest being retail at 32.91% of the tax collected.
Michael, does this include the CAPC tax?
No, this is just our sales tax of what we collect.
So, Michael,
Yeah.
hi.
Hi.
Is it fair to say then that that sort of increase in sales tax is due to tourism? Because you look at the decrease in contracting and manufacturing, like a retraction there. Is that normal for November to have a retraction in those areas?
Without having the November numbers there, or, from the previous
I was
year,
just
I'm not
curious,
sure.
yeah.
But we could look into that and compare it year over year and see. So the next chart is just the percentages breaking out, showing what your larger categories are, with retailers showing 32.91. Page 6, this is our revenue and expenditures report through January 31st of 2006. That's almost 8.5% of your fiscal year completed. We have shown total income of $934,764 in the first month, and we saw 1.2 million in expenses going out. Has a big portion of that has to do with you pay a lot of your bills in January. You pay your workman's comp, you're paying different things like that that are large ticket items that are a one-time expense, and we go ahead and expense them out at the month we receive them. So that's why we have such, it's like this every January, is why we're a little bit higher there.
So, Michael, I know that we've talked about this before with those going out, but would you say that that's true for the general fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's especially true in the general fund because you have all those different departments, and it's there's a lot of workman's comp in there, and our workman's comp bill was pretty high. Let me see if I can see exactly what the number is.
And then as far as transit, you have expenses outpacing income as well. Is that?
Yes.
Because that's November, so that we've got high tourism, but then we've got this sort of misbalance. And
No, that's two different things.
That's right.
These are actually expenses
sales
for
tax.
January, and so he has really low income in January, but he still has a lot of expenses. So because his main driver is a fair revenue and reimbursement from the state. So he may spend a lot in January, and then he has to turn it in for reimbursement. So it takes he has a lot of money going out in January, and he'll recover a lot of it through reimbursement from the state, but he has to file that, and it'll come back in, like the next month.
So you feel like that's consistent with 25?
Yeah. Because you can see, where am I looking at? You can see that his income, like for the month of January, he only had $33,000 in income, which is like 1%. So his income picks up as we get more into the tourist season. He has more fares. He has more people riding the trams and trolleys, and some of them aren't even running in January. I don't think the trolleys are even, or the trams are even running in January. Yes, sir.
He has the same expense like workers' comp and all that
Yes.
stuff, too, that he
Yep.
has to do. Yeah.
Property insurances,
Yeah.
automobile insurances, things like that. Plus salaries, he's got salaries too.
I guess my question was, the 33,000 in revenue is consistent with what it was in 25?
I would have to go back and verify that, but let's see if I can look here.
Just
Yeah,
curious.
it's, okay, let's see. If you go to, the detail starts on page 20, starts on page 23. And this is our revenue and expenditure report that we print out. As you'll see on here, it has the year-to-date balance of what was spent in January or what was received in January, what we had budget, what our 2026 budget is, and then the last column, you'll see activity for 1/31 of 2025. So it will show you, transit is Fund 85, so he's pretty far in the back. So if you go to page 43, the last page, you will see that his revenue in 26 for January was $33,000 and his expenses were $155. In January of 25, he had $100,000 worth of revenue and $187 of expenditures. But I would want to look and see if that is actual revenue or if it's reimbursement, because it could be reimbursement that he got from December that didn't come in until January. So let's see what his fair revenue is. See, out of the last year, okay, so this year so far, In 2026, he's had 28,000. See, most of his income is from his reimbursement from the highway department, which is 28,000. Last year, he got 91,000.
Okay.
So you
Thanks
take those out of there, and he would 91 to 107 would be 16,000. 28 out of 33 would leave 5. So he's down. His revenue is down.
But with that explanation, it looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His bus receipts were about the same. And also, in 2025, he had $10,000 worth of insurance proceeds. So that you take that out of the 10,000, so that he's about 6 and 5. So he's pretty close to what he was in 25. And that's why I put that last column in there, so that y'all can see kind of where it was at based on 25 numbers. And you can see in the overall numbers, right now we're showing in all accounts, we're showing 320 negative. Last year at the same time, we were showing 484. So a lot of our expenses come in at the first of the year. Okay. The next page that we look at is page 7 of 43. This is our capital expenditures that we were approved. We haven't, at that point, by the end of January, we hadn't spent any of this money. So this will start showing up in our February and our March reports of things that we have purchased. Those will start showing up on there. The next page is one that I kind of wanted to spend just a few minutes on. It's not anything major, but this is a page that we've kind of modified a little bit to make it more useful. This is our fund balances, our bank balances, and what we did is we put them into our dispersing accounts, meaning there's checks clearing out of those accounts, and then our unrestricted funds and our restricted funds. And then restricted funds for water and sewer. And then the next category is available cash. So it shows you that we have, out of $4.9 million, 2.4 of it is in restricted cash, 1.9 million is in unrestricted cash, and then 486 is in dispersing funds, means that we've already spent that money. We're just waiting on those checks to clear. But we kind of wanted to do this to show a better financial picture, because those restricted funds, even though there may be a lot of money in there, they're restricted to certain things that they can be spent on, and they're not just for general use. The general use categories are going to be your franchise fee, your general fund, and your general fund capitals accounts. And then down at the bottom of it, you'll see our savings accounts, our CDs that we have, that they total the $770, because we did cash in that one $65,000 CD that was tied to the water sewer bond that we no longer have. So we did cash it. We moved it up to the wastewater treatment plant construction at Equity Bank, and just put it into that account. So till we decide what we want to use it for.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
in restricted funds, I see the Music Park Rehab Project.
Yes.
Why is that in restricted?
That is a grant from
It's
the
a
Banks
grant.
Foundation.
Okay, I understand.
And they gave us that money, and it's only to go towards that park rehab.
Gotcha.
And when you drive by there, start looking, they've started cleaning it up, so it's starting to look good.
Did you get things figured out on the sign on the north?
We're still working on that, too.
Yep, still working on that.
Yeah, well, I found the owner, if that's what you're talking about.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I'm still working with the owners on that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Figure out who owned it?
Dorches.
One thing this is a side note, but one thing we're looking at doing on that and talking about this music park rehab project and everything is we're looking at moving towards a city-wide logo, because we have 16 throughout the city. Parks has one, the water department has one, that kind of stuff. So we're going to try to maybe come up with one logo, and then like as in putting in these new signs and everything, they would incorporate those logos and then start using them throughout the city on everything, so that we kind of have a recognizable, something for Eureka. But, okay, the next page is the just charts on the bank accounts, and the thing that we did here is the top chart is overall funds. The bottom chart is restricted versus unrestricted funds and dispersing funds. We kind of wanted to give you two charts there to kind of see a more visual effect of where the money is, what kind of accounts it's in. Our last page, or page 10, is our long-term liabilities. We have our sales and use tax bond. Our next payment on it will be an interest payment in April, and then we'll have the principal payment in October. The solar lease project, we pay that monthly, so that's just showing what our annual is on that. And then the last one is the Natural Resource Division. That's our payment on it. We made a couple payments in November and December, and these are starting with our payments for 2026. That's our annual payments. The next page, page 11, is our CDs and our long-term investments. We just had a bid opening on the general fund CD of $270,000, the street fund CD of $100,000, and the water meter CD of $100,000. And in doing all of these bids for all of these years, this is the first time it's happened. Two banks bid the exact same amount. They bid the same amount for the rate. So how it happened was the $270,000 CD was at Equity Bank, and the street and water fund were at CS Bank. And so since we didn't really have any rules or policies on how to do it, I just left them where they were at and let them renew. So that kept, CS Bank kept $200,000 and Equity kept the $271,000. So, and I reached out to both presidents and explained to them, and they were fine with it. So we're just going to roll those over. The rate on them is dropping. It's going to be 3.61 interest rate. I think that's an APY of like 3.66 or 67, I think.
1 year, 6 months?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year. We have one more that we have a CD opening on it this week. It's the $100,000 general fund CD that matures on 3/25. We'll open that this week. And then all of our CDs will pretty much be set for a year, except for the general fund depreciation, which matures in May. All right. So I know we went through it kind of fast. The next, what you're going to see, this is all your backup. That is the invoices from page 12 and 13 are invoices from the state on the sales tax. Appendix B, she labeled them down. Appendix B is 14 through 22. That's your sales tax. That's the breakout of the sales tax of all the different companies that, the categories that they paid. And then 23 through 43 is your revenue and expenditures. That's Appendix C. That's your detail for that report. Does anybody have any questions? Steve, you look like you have a question.
That looks good, Michael.
I like the new way in which you put.
Do you like that?
money.
I mean, to me, it just made it easier for us to go from chart to chart to chart. And then if there's something we want to dig into, we can go into the appendix. But then we're not trying to, go through 30 pages of detail without having, so.
Well, the other way, it looked like we had $9 million in reserve when, no,
Yeah.
a lot of it is dedicated, so
Yep.
we've got it, yeah.
And that's an important thing for us to keep in mind because, and if you look if you, we kind of, I didn't really delve into this one, but if you'll go to 6 of 43, the revenue and expenditure summary, instead of just going 0100 for our departments, we moved those into where, like, the first part of it is the general fund and then the general fund capital. So we know that all has tied to the general fund. Then the next is streets, the next is water, the next is transit, and then you have all of our other accounts like admin of justice, court automation, fireman's pensions that are definitely specific funds. Because I didn't want, like in this, you see, it looks like we've got an extra $25,000 in debt service. Well, we really don't, because that's committed to that loan. So we wanted to show a little bit more of the things that were restricted and couldn't be used for other things. So.
Michael, I have a couple questions.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is just me, this is you teaching me probably. I'm trying to understand, since we're going to be talking about water and wastewater, thinking about that project, and I appreciate you and Simon getting together and kind of putting together a reconciliation of sorts about how money's been spent toward the project for wastewater that was presented by McClelland. And my understanding of that report was that what we've spent so far is basically professional fees at this point, except for some environmental portion of something that's still.
Actually, I think it's, and we can get into this more on the sales tax, but I think we've spent about $300,000 or more, like on the sludge project and some things like that, that were emergency things that had to be done. So we've spent the engineering money, and then we've spent some also on those projects, just a little bit. There isn't a whole lot that's been spent, but there is, I think, like $300,000 that's been spent.
Okay.
$300,000, Simon?
Simon?
Yeah, I think it's $300,000.
So my question now is, I'm trying to understand how I would see those projected improvements flowing through the budget. And I'm looking at page 39 of 43, no, maybe 40 of 43. So I can see here 22-5861, WWTP sludge storage project. Is that the same project we're talking about?
Okay, so the wastewater treatment rehab project, that is the $6 million project. And we, when we go back and we look at our year-end numbers for, which I have those. Hang on just a second, real quick. That's why I have a handy little book here. Okay, so in 2025, in that 5860 wastewater treatment rehab project, we spent $486,000 in the entire year. We had budgeted 474, which that was the balance of the 750, because part of that was paid in 2024. In the sludge project, we spent $261,666 in 25, and that came out of the $100,000 loan that we got, and then the rest of it came out of our I&I and other incomes that we had within water.
Can you say again how much that was?
$261,666.16. That's a lot of sixes.
I don't know if that's
I'm
good or
lisping
bad.
my sixes. But that was the sludge portion of that we were going to have to do. That was the immediate stuff that couldn't wait, that had to be done. So what we do is, instead of putting placeholders in of saying we're going to get $6 million and we're going to have $6 million go out, I haven't put it into the budget until we get to the point of we're actually going to start construction. We know when we're going to get our money, and we know when we're going to start paying things. That could be in 25, it may not. It could roll to, it could be in 26, it could roll to 27, I don't know yet. So once we get that information and know for sure when it's going to start, then I will go back and put that into the budget. But it's just kind of a placeholder if you put it in there now, because you're going to show $6 million coming in, $6 million going out, and you won't have any activity in either one of those GLs until we actually start doing something.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I appreciate you walking me through that. And then, so if we look at the rehab project, there's $35,600, and what is that designation?
so that is some bills that came in from 25, from what they were doing, and it came in January of 26. So we thought everything was paid for that we had done up until that point. So that is additional money that was spent that they thought they had billed us for, but they hadn't. So they billed us in December, and we ended up paying it in January. So I'll have to put a figure in there when I do mid-year budget adjustments. So that's part of it, but that is still within the scope of the $6 million project.
Okay. Thank
It's
you.
not something separate. I keep those projects, we label those projects, they send us they send us forms that say you paid so much of this and here's how much is left. And so we're keeping that completely 100% separate. So if there was something that broke tomorrow in the wastewater treatment plant, it would be ran up under plant maintenance and operations or whatever in the daily operations. Anything that goes into those two accounts is specifically tied to those projects.
Gotcha.
We don't know when we're going to get the approval from
Yeah.
the state.
We got the approval for the loan. We're waiting on different environmental approvals
Right,
and
that's-
different things like that. Yeah. So.
All right.
While we're talking about that kind of stuff, what's the latest on Black Bass Grant?
We are finishing up the environmental, and I'm assuming the feds have the environmental study, and waiting to hear back from them. We had to get an environmentalist to come back and do I forgot what the number is, but they had to do an environmental report and
That's been done and
assessment.
sent to the,
Beg your pardon?
that's been done and sent to the federal government.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions on the budget?
So are we going to get the vote on the city symbol or city?
No, I'm gonna pick it. What? No, I mentioned it to Sandy because we were talking about this whole sign thing, and so I was like, it would be really nice because they were saying what the sign might look like. I was like, it'd be really nice if we had one general logo throughout the entire city. So I think she was going to talk to some people about because she says there's a whole thing behind that I don't understand about your logo needs to say.
The branding.
Yes, it needs to say all these things that she's a Emmy award-winning master of, and so she was going to kind of start looking into that project as a side project. So yeah,
Who is she?
Sandy Martin.
Oh.
But yeah, the city would end up picking out the logo because I said something about maybe even having like a local contest to see, of our artists around here, what they could come up with. So I don't know. It's kind of just in the preliminary phases of looking into that. So.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah. Looks good, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, if nothing else, we'll adjourn the finance budget meeting and jump into our tax workshop on there. Michael, I see you got some items.
Yeah,
Is that-
a couple of things that I brought that I wanted to show you. In talking to our bond counsel person who will help us with writing the languages and everything for our bond, we had some questions last time at the workshop of what actually the bond could pay for. And so the sheet that I gave you that says for discussion purposes only, we will actually have to pass 3 things on that ballot. We will have to pass, number 1, the sales tax. Then we will have to pass a authorization to use that sales tax for water improvement bonds and one for sewer improvement bonds. Now, this could go a lot of different ways. How I explained it to us is if we get the sales tax passed and the 2 bond ordinances don't pass, that means we still get the sales tax. We just wouldn't be able to utilize it for a bond to get a big chunk of money to do a bunch of repairs. If the bonds pass and the sales tax doesn't, we don't get anything. It doesn't mean anything. So to do what we want to do, all 3 of them need to pass. But one of the questions that David had was, can it pay for the payments on the other debt that the water has? The way he said that he would structure it, and you can see the wording here, is that it would pay for the repairs and capital improvements and those kind of things that we would need to use to operate the water system and the sewer system. And then that frees up some of that money to cover your debt. So instead of saying that we're going to do this tax to pay our debt, it's better to use the tax to pay for the improvements and the repairs and the things that the water and sewer department need. And then that frees up your O&M, your operating and maintenance money that the water generates and lets it pay for its debt. So those are the 3 these are just suggestions. This is preliminary. He did this pretty quick for us, just to kind of give you guys an idea of where it would head as far as the balloting would be. The next 2 pages that are in there, it's 2 pages, is I reached out to Cheryl at Raymond James to kind of see what this 1% sales tax would generate bond-wise. And so the maximum that it would generate is a $17 million bond over 20 years. The payment on that would be about $1.3 million a year. So you would have the $17 million up front, and then you would make the payment of the $1.3 million a year. If the tax generates the 1.7 as it is doing right now, that would leave you about $400,000 extra to put into your water department, put into savings for future projects or whatever. So that's just kind of, and it's not saying we have to do this 17. This is saying that based upon the amount of the tax, what the tax annually draws, what we could actually max out. And if you'll see over at the left, she's kind of quoted us kind of where the rates would be right now. Current rates are 4.24%. So she says they could go either up or down 25 basis points to, 4.1% or 4.01%, 4.48%. And then the next page, this is just kind of like a timeline that at the latest we would want to do. I mean, we want to do this as soon as possible, and so that we can get going on this. But August 18th would be the last city council that we could do to pass the ordinance. Then she has some other dates. Then the election would be November 3rd, and then she goes on to spell out how we would go through the bond process of the offering of the
So it'd be a 20-year payout. 20-year payout, and we're looking at 17 million. So, I mean, whatever we do, we don't want to sunset it in 10. We want
No,
to run,
we would
run
have
the
to-
life of the loan for sure.
Yes, because that's one thing that we have to consider is because I told her 20 years, because That's about.
That's good.
Yeah.
I
And
think
so
that's good.
If we decide we don't want to go that long, then it'll reduce the amount that we can get.
Well, yeah, there's that, plus the you know, we don't start paying interest on it until we draw it.
Right.
So, so that's two things in our favor, because it is, I mean, we're not going to be able to do it all at once, let's face it, that's just,
Right.
that's just not going to happen.
It's going to take a minute.
So, yeah, I like that, that's good,
So
that
that,
explains a lot. In this, these first two pages, I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're saying here.
okay, so the very first one is the sales tax. So they will vote on whether or not they're for or against say we decide on the 1%. Then the citizens are going to vote on an adoption of a 1% sales tax. Then number two, they're voting to use that 1% sales tax to be able to do water improvement bonds.
The only problem with that is, I mean, they may vote for one and not the other. you know.
Exactly.
So I think it needs to be under the same shroud, can it not be?
No, that's why he's the lawyer. This is the lawyer that does bond. He did our last bond counseling for us, and that was the very first question that Butch and I asked on the phone call, and he said no. There are three separate issues.
Really?
You have to vote to approve the tax, and then you have to vote to issue the bond for the water, and you have to vote to issue the bond for water sewer.
Okay, so but the first one, that's the actual tax, it does tie it to the water and sewer.
Yes.
Okay, to see.
Well, it says the levy of the sales and use tax is not dependent on any bonds being approved or issued. So if they approve, say they approve number one and they don't 2 and 3, then we're going to get the 1% sales tax. We just can't go out and do our thing with Cheryl. We can't go out and get our $17 million. We'll just get 1.7 million or whatever comes in taxes per year. So if they approve 1, 2, and 3, then
we can bond.
Then we can bond. Yes.
So for clarification, for people out there, so we need to really make this clear for the public to understand it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the bonds are, basically, we're asking for the sales increase, then we're asking for the bonds to say, this is almost like borrowing money on what would come in, you know,
Yes.
through the years. So we'd have the chunk of money up front to start working on
Yes.
stuff, right?
That's exactly what it
Okay.
is.
Yeah,
You're
instead of trying to piece it in for $1 million
$1
plus
million a year.
every
Right.
year and just.
We'd sit here and wait for
little here,
years,
little
get it
there.
not to do anything, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, the first one, period of years, that surprised me. I didn't think they would put a timeline on the.
Well, that's where, I mean, I think the 20-year bond idea is the way to go. I
It's
really
20
do.
years?
Yes, sir.
Is that
How did
what
we
you would
come
put
up with
in
that
here?
number?
Would you put 20 in there then?
Based on our repayment ability and.
No, I mean the amount of money.
Well,
So-
that's calculated, it's that formula
So
they use there.
she has a formula that she puts in, and it says, okay, she did another chart that I didn't give y'all because I didn't know if it was that relevant, but she takes our past sales tax history, kind of like what I do, and she does a chart of how much we've brought in and how much 1% sales tax has brought in over the last 10 years. And then she says, okay, I can safely say that they're going to bring in 1.7 million. That's what I think they're going to do. And then she says, okay, well, you don't want a payment of 1.7 million. So then you go down to where they're collateralized, they feel like they're collateralized good by the sales tax.
I understand.
So you're borrowing to where what your max payment can be. So at our max payment, it would be a $17 million bond. If we wanted to do a $10 million, we could, or if we wanted to do a 12, we could.
Well, but the 20 million, where did the 20 million figure come from?
20 years, not
20 years,
20
not 20
years.
million.
Yeah, 20 years.
20 years for how
20-year
much,
payout.
and how much money?
17 million.
17.
17. Okay.
Now,
I thought it was,
We had options, but
Yeah.
we felt this was the best option that we had.
You could
We
do
could have
10,
done
15,
15.
I'm not
20, or
saying
30.
we wouldn't spend that on the sewers,
Well,
water
no,
and sewer.
We
but-
could have done 15 years, we could have done 30 years, but we decided the 20 years was the best with the money that we would get to get this paid out. Because in 30 years, a lot of this stuff is already going to be worn out, and we're going to be needing to redo it again, so
Exactly.
we might as well stick with 20.
Yeah.
So with the rate increases that we've had, and then if we increase the 1% sales, that comes in from tourism and other people visiting the town, not just on the residents, we can help cover these expenses. It's got to be very clear to the public that if we only vote for the sales tax, that's going to trickle in slower, where if they vote for the sales bonds, both of them, then we have the money up front to be able to do what we need while we pay it back
Right.
with the sales tax. I think we all get it, but we need to make sure that everybody in Eureka that votes for this understands this.
And the other caveat that will help with that is to realize the rate. You know, you're getting a really low rate on doing this bond. So if we went to the bank and tried to borrow $17 million, our rate would probably be higher.
Oh, much higher.
So it's going to be a lot lower interest rate is what we're going to pay.
Right.
So,
That's a very good point
yes.
as well.
So our
Yeah.
payback is less. Yep. Okay, so that's kind of my financial part of it. Simon is going to come up now, and he's going to kind of talk to you about where the money is going to go, what he sees in the future. Did you have a question for me?
I just have one more question.
Yes,
On
ma'am.
your timeline, on the last page,
That's Cheryl's timeline, so yeah.
so you said that the latest that the city can adopt this, or calling for the election, is on the 18th?
You have to have your ordinance in 70 days. Your election ordinance must be filed with the county clerk 70 days on line 2 there, 70 days prior to the election date. So you couldn't pass, the latest you could pass the ordinance would be August 25th to turn it in that day. So that's why she's saying,
And that would be reading it 3 times with an emergency clause,
So how soon can we do it?
as soon as possible.
so our plan is
That's
going to
what I
be
would do.
that tonight, y'all are going to
Okay.
talk about the percentage. If we all agree on the 1%, then we'll turn that over to the attorneys. They will write the ordinance, and we'll probably have it at the next meeting so that we can go ahead and get the ordinance approved and get moving on it. Because the quicker we can get this foundational stuff out of the way, then we can get more into the education
Bingo.
and we'll spend more time on it and less on, the
And get the
structure.
public to start helping us out with education
Yep,
and promoting of it.
Great.
okay.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So I wrote a little snippet about this 1% sales tax I'd like to read real quick if I can. So it goes, maintaining the hidden network of pipes beneath our feet is essential for the health and safety of our community. However, as infrastructure ages, the cost of emergency repairs and system-wide upgrades continue to rise. Traditionally, these costs are passed directly to you through increased monthly water and sewer rates. We're proposing an alternative, implementing a 1% dedicated water and wastewater sales tax to fund these vital projects. So while both methods generate revenue, a 1% sales tax offers several distinct advantages for our local households. It broadens the base. The utility rates are paid only by local residents and business owners. A sales tax ensures that visitors and commuters who use our roads and water system also contribute to their upkeep. It protects fixed incomes. Rate hikes often place a disproportionate burden on seniors and low-income families. A sales tax is a pay-as-you-go model. It doesn't penalize basic essential water usage. Immediate funding for large projects. Sales tax revenue can often be used to secure low-interest bonds, allowing us to tackle major dig-once projects like replacing entire neighborhood mains rather than expensive temporary Band-Aid repairs. And then transparency. A dedicated tax has a clear sunset clause or a specific mandate ensuring every penny is tracked and spent solely on infrastructure. So as far as the impact to your wallet goes, to put this in perspective, a 1% tax equates to just 1 penny for every dollar spent on taxable goods. For many households, a small contribution in tax of cash register is significantly less than $15 to $20 a month. In this situation, to pay back a bond that costs a repayment of $140,000 a year, water rates would have to increase by over $80 a month per account. So our commitment is by shifting the burden away from monthly utility bills, we can ensure our water remains clean, our sewers remain functional, and our community remains affordable. We are committed to full transparency through this process and will provide regular updates on every mile of pipe replaced. And then, of course, we always welcome any kind of feedback and look forward to discussing how the shift can build a more resilient future for us all. That being said, let me go to my next file. So to replace water and sewer line underground infrastructure is very, very costly. So we're looking at a bond of just over $17 million. This will replace approximately 17 miles worth of pipe. We have quite a bit more than that in the city. We have pipe in the city that is dated as far back as late 1800s that has not been replaced. Let's see here. When we do water line projects, of course, that would include new valves, new fire hydrants, pressure reducing valves, which we don't have in the city anymore. One of our reasons for water loss is because our pressure is so high in some of the lower areas of the city. When we do the sewer line replacement projects that include manholes, lift stations, and et cetera. Back in 1998, we had a sewer line master plan that was created by McClellan. None of the work, to my knowledge, has been completed with that study. We promised work to be completed to some of the residents and businesses, but none of that was performed. There's some things about the McClellan study from the 90s that I don't necessarily agree with. In their plan, they showed 21 new lift stations. I think that's a little excessive in my opinion. Let's see here. If we end up doing more lift stations, that means more maintenance, more year-to-year budget types of things, probably more personnel in public works to have to maintain all that. Lift stations they cost anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 a piece. So that's kind of why I don't necessarily agree with the 21 additional lift stations within our system. Our wastewater treatment plant, even though we're doing the $6.5 million remodel project, we have a second phase of that. McClellan is estimating that at $4 million. I'm estimating it at about $1 million. We still have quite a few clay sewer lines within the city. We don't have an exact known quantity, but we did receive a consent decree years ago that required that we replace all that, and that was not done. So the first thing we need is a water sewer infrastructure plan. We need to have a master plan. And I spoke with Performance Services this afternoon. We're looking at about $200,000 to $250,000 to complete a sewer and water master plan. The only caveat to that is we need to do our mapping first. We really don't know what's in the ground. So getting the mapping under control is the first step of that.
When's that going to start?
I'm still waiting on budgetary numbers to approach you guys for that. So as soon as I know, you guys will know. So to replace water or sewer, the cost is about the same. You're looking about $200 to $400 per linear foot. A lot of that depends on the installation. If it's trenched, what kind of terrain is it in, what kind of, how rocky it is. We're in a very rocky area, so yes.
You're talking primarily 8-inch water lines, primarily.
Primarily.
And then the sewer lines,
8-inch.
also 8-inch?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All PVC pipes?
It will be all, it'll all be C900, which is a PVC, a thick wall PVC. So the accessibility is a big issue that we have. We have some lines that are down in ravines that we just cannot access because they're put in a place where we just can't get our equipment down to. So the American Water Works Association, which is the AWWA, is kind of our Bible and how we operate and what we do. The AWWA recommends a 3% replacement per year of your water and sewer infrastructure, underground infrastructure. I've been here for 4 years. We have done none. We should be at 12% replacement by now. That's about all I have. I feel like I'm flooding you guys with information, probably. So
This is related, but it's something that's current, where do we stand with the engineering on the roundabout moving, whatever you call that?
Yeah, Philip Lewis is doing that engineering on that roundabout proposal. I don't remember what his estimated price was. I think it was just shy of 300,000, I think. Is that correct?
I think so.
I'm not too, exactly, I don't really have an update on that right now to be able to provide to you
That's for the
guys.
relocating?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay,
Better than I thought it was going to be.
so this map here that we've been given, what is
Yeah.
this?
So I made that map in Google Earth. So if you look at the map, you have a red circle around the historic loop and then going down East Mountain all the way down to Flint Street. So I kind of broke this up as phases just to give you guys kind of a visual on the water side of things. So, you know, my proposal, if this tax were to pass and we were to be able to get these bonds, is start with phase one, which would be replacing the entire historic loop first, because that, from Black Bass on up the hill and around the loop is probably some of our oldest area, and then going down East Mountain, coming all the way back down to Flint Street. And then once phase one is complete, then we could start break off to phase two. So that'd be connecting all the areas within the loop, and then also some of the roads that break off East Mountain, and then just kind of spreading out from there.
So we've been watching the gas company replace gas lines the last few years, and they will be on a street for over a year. And it just seems like it takes forever. Is this the same kind of thing going to happen, do you think? or-
It really depends on what we run into once we break the top surface off, so we don't really know what's underground.
That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because they said that the maps that were given were inaccurate. The lines weren't near where they said they're supposed to be.
We're going to get the
And
map
they'd run into a
first.
big rock and then slow them down for sure.
Right.
They tied up Spring Street for over a year. And now
King
they,
Street was tied up for quite a while as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we don't run into that situation, but I'm sure there's going to have to be rock broken up eventually. You know, it's just the nature of where we live and
Right.
the way where this area was built. You know.
What they'll do is they'll go in and replace, or they'll go in and install a new line, and then
Abandon.
everything else gets just shut off. They're not going to dig them up.
not going to dig it up.
No.
Take it out.
They'll just leave them in the ground and
Abandoned.
make all new connections, yeah. That's
Right.
And that's
way to
probably
do
what we'll end up doing is installing new on one side of the road or the other. So the state requires that we have a separation between the water and the sewer. So we'll put water lines down one side of the road, and if the topography is adequate to do so, we'll put sewer on the other side of the road. We just have to see what the elevations are. We're in a very hilly environment here, so that I didn't draw one up for sewer because I could tell you guys, oh, it'd be ideal to do this, but this is, with the topography that we have here, it's not always ideal to be able to do that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Can I just get clarification on a couple of things?
Yes.
I thought I heard you say 250,000 for a water master plan and 250,000 for a wastewater master plan
No, 250,000 for both.
for both?
Yes.
And that's basically contracting with the professional services to do that sort of a
Correct.
thing?
Yeah.
And would that include collecting data and things like that? Or do we have everything we would need in order to create a plan?
No, the first step is we have to get adequate maps. We have to get proper maps. Our mapping system, like I'll use White Street as the example.
I remember you talking about that before.
We have
so I
3
was
water
curious
mains that
if
run down
changed.
White Street. Why, I don't know. There should be one water main that runs down White Street, but we have 3. We have one on each side of the road, one right down the middle of the road. So we didn't know that until Dick and Zeke ran a new service line, and we found the water lines that were underneath the road, and I was like, whoa, why do we have 3 water lines that run down this road? So basically, the start of it is like it shows in that map, 1 water line down the road, all the way around the circle, 1 water line down, all the tying points, 1 water line all the way down East Mountain, and trying to break out these unnecessary water lines that end up costing us money because of repair.
So
Once
that-
we have that, once we have good maps, then we can do pressure models to the computer system and be able to identify areas that we need to have pressure reducing valves to bring that pressure down to reduce our water loss. And when we're running 150, 200 PSI of water pressure, it's leaking out of every joint,
For sure.
every little thing it can.
Yeah.
So without adequate maps, we can't really run a proper model on the system.
So that mapping is separate from
That is.
This, okay.
Yes.
And do you have some idea of what that's costing? Is that what the company that was here last?
Yeah, so I'm working with Performance Services on that. So
Performance
we're looking at some ground penetrating radar systems to be able to go down the streets and do those. It's going to be a very slow process. It'll take quite a bit of time to do all that, but
But we don't have an estimate on that.
I don't have estimate on that yet. Yep.
Right. And
That's the outfit, I'm sorry, that was the outfit that was here a couple of weeks ago.
Correct.
And so they don't, what did they do for free? What did they,
So once we get all this data for them, they're going to be the ones that search for the grants and the funding to repair and replace our infrastructure, underground infrastructure primarily. And so that's pretty much what they do, is they're going to find the grants, and they might even be able to find some grants to help pay for our master plan of the water sewer system and stuff like that too, so.
And do you have anything right now that you're working on in terms of a plan? Other than just like, I know you're busy, you're responding to lots of things and you're doing lots of good stuff. I'm just curious, do you have anything that resembles like,
So, yeah,
Master
to
plan.
answer your question, yes. So I have a Eugene Darby who works for me, who was a surveyor in his past life. He is taking shots with the surveying instrument that I have, and we're correcting a lot of the coordinates and locations of our manholes, and we're just trying to connect the dots right now. It's been a rather slow process of trying to go, because he has to go out to every single manhole, put the machine on there, let it calibrate, take the shot, write down the information so we can get back to the office. But we're working on that. We're also trying to keep track of where our leaks are, where our problem areas are. We're cameraing some of the sewer lines that are problematic and trying to figure out what's going on with those, and then listing all that on
so kind of
inside the shop. I've got some,
prioritize work and?
right.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing I want to do is come to council with just I think we should do this. I want to have scientific proof behind what I bring to you guys, that way you guys know without a doubt this is what we should do first, what we should do second, et cetera. So
It's a big job, super important. So I
you.
appreciate everything you're doing.
I try.
Before we close the workshop, there was just one point that I think came up at the last time we met, and I think it's a super important piece of this plan in providing necessary infrastructure improvements we're talking about these 3 pieces of legislation. We want to reduce the burden on our resident community. So my understanding is that if these 3 pieces of legislation are passed, then the city would invest in another wastewater rate study to look at and possibly mitigate any future rate changes for our residents. So I feel like that is a really important piece and key to the success of the passage of this, is if people understand that if we can secure this kind of a financing together, then it won't all fall on the residents' responsibility to carry these infrastructure improvements, which are in the future at some point and absolutely going to happen. We just don't know when some of those things are going to.
One of the things that we've said, excuse me, is I&I. Right now, we have I&I on our bills that are additional for the residents. If this sales tax passes, then that is one thing for sure that we could remove from the bills would be the I&I. Then we would have to come back budgetary-wise and determine whether, I think it cost us $20-something thousand to do the rate study last time. So we would have to come back and say we wanted to do another rate study to see where we were at on that. But the compliance of Act 605 is different than all of these repairs and infrastructure and everything that we need to do. We need to make sure that we stay in compliance with 605, and we need to stay in compliance with the ADQ and all those that he has to rely on to get his infrastructure. So I wouldn't want to go out and say that if this passes, we're not going to do any rate increases or there would be lower water rates. That would all have to come out with a new study. So, but we could say that we can take away the I&I.
We're going to still have increases in water rate from the
What we're
district. And don't we have to, of course, for 605, we have to have a rate study every so many years, right?
I think it's
Every 5.
Every 5 years.
It has to be redone every 5 years, and then also if we take out a loan. So I think with this situation, if we pass the tax and we end up getting the bonds, I think we're going to have to do it again. But, we have more time to do that,
Yeah.
and, we might be able to find.
That's okay, that's part of doing business, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's, I wouldn't worry about that.
Because I do think that's a significant part of this whole thing. You're talking about wholesale rates for water I just so happen to have gone through this training, and I don't want to take you through that whole situation, but I did learn that Northwest Arkansas and the Beaver Water District are increasing their capacity by like 5 times in terms of pumping to meet the requirements for all the development in that area. It's tough because they have a lot of residents to spread that across, but we are not growing to the same rate. So if you think about it, we're kind of carrying more of the burden of the expansion of Northwest Arkansas. How do we offset that for our community? That's my concern. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Beaver Water District's doubled in the size of their plant, and their operations are in that construction phase right now of that. So they've ran a few big, huge lines over the east side of the cities.
There's at
gonna
least
cost a
two
lot of money.
30-inch lines going in over there now
I think
that I'm
there's
aware of.
72-inch lines they've ran out there, if I'm not mistaken, so big lines.
Two 30-inch ones.
All right, we need to kind of wrap this up here. Has anybody got any more questions for Simon? All right.
Thank you.
Simon, thank you very much. All right, that kind of concludes our workshop for the proposed tax workshop and budget workshop. At this moment, we'll go ahead and start our council meeting here shortly, as soon as our clerk